To tell you the truth, I'm a little shocked.
I think I could do better than that. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for another top 10 worst voice acting in video game. For this list, we're looking at those lines that are so badly delivered that you'll wonder how they survived the editing process, and are basing our picks on a mix of hilarity, lack of effort, and just how much they ruined the game they were in.
I told you to take it easy. Son of a...
Number 10, Two Worlds.
Be patient, and no one will be harmed.
Notably awkward cutscenes are bad enough, but some people just want to keep the ball rolling, it seems. This fantasy game spent time developing a fresh world and lore to grip their audience, along with some redeeming gameplay to carry the rest. Cutting corners nearly everywhere else sunk its appeal a lot, but no detail was more noticeable than the awful voice acting.
They asked for you. People, tell me more. Swiftly now.
Opening with bad lines and heading downhill from there, much of the dialogue is cringy at best and gets worse thanks to the extended cutscenes, which force even more bad writing on top of some clear first-time read-throughs.
Let us go on, please.
Hush. They will not find us in such a storm as this. You must rest.
Number 9, Time Crisis.
We've been invaded. What? Never mind.
If they aren't spending time on proper lip sync animations, is it really surprising when they skimp on the voices too? Going for the 80s action movie vibe to an almost ridiculous level. This first-person arcade shooter definitely had the fun factor going for it. While its gameplay fell victim to time, the hilariously bad voice acting is timelessly bad, ranging from overacted to comically sloppy delivery.
Both you and this stinking castle can burn for all I care.
This one really couldn't get the voices right. Making matters worse is the president's daughter's voice, whose shrill screeches rip through the speakers in all of her cutscenes, making for a straight-up painful experience.
Don't come! It's a trap!
Number 8, 18-wheeler American Pro Trucker.
This is Texas Hawk. Anybody out there copy? Over.
Accuracy isn't always a good thing. Taking the wheel in this driving simulator means hitting the open road and all the joys and troubles that come along with it. Driving against some dangerously aggressive truckers, there's quite a lot going on with this game to raise an eyebrow at.
No! I got pulled over for speeding.
While there's enough lethargy in the radio announcer's voice to dull you right to sleep, it also jumps in the other direction fairly aggressively, with every voice on your radio, from the dispatchers and other drivers, coming through in painfully warbled distortion. The ear-shredding audio is enough to make you want to shut the game down regardless of gameplay. Number 7, Castle Shinigami 2.
I understand how you feel, soldier. Tell you one thing. Show your power.
What happens when some bad localization meets even worse delivery? Well, you get this hot mess.
I promise to forget.
For this vertical shooter, the designers decided they needed to incorporate a story. But since that was secondary to the gameplay, so was the voice acting.
Not interested.
Oh, you're into that.
I like girls, but now it's about justice.
Thanks to some fairly awful translations by the localization team, most of the dialogue in this game barely makes any sense at all. But the awkwardly delivered voices are made even worse by some choppy editing. Feeling emotionally dead and totally disconnected from each previous line, it's really hard not to break up laughing anytime the gameplay stops for a chat.
Awful.
It's fun to tease that type of person.
Maybe your type?
Number 6, Ride to Hell, Retribution.
You ever slice an ear off on a baby cow? They scream and scream.
Over-the-top violence and disturbingly unnatural sex scenes are bad enough for most games, but some developers like to shoot for the moon. In this infamously bad game, Jake fights his way across desert highways against the people that killed his family and nearly killed him. Unfortunately, the game is so broken that it's almost unplayable at times, but the voices that accompany the game's awkward cutscenes will have most players running for the hills.
This is the part where you beg for his life. You understand?
Even in full revenge mode, Jake sounds kinda monotone, making his bad delivery even more unbearable given how lackluster it is in or even out of context.
Look, asshole, I've got no problem doing a bit of pig sticking.
Number 5, Michigan, Report from Hell.
Carly! Oh my God!
From Hell barely begins to describe this one. In this survival horror game, you're stuck in the unique position of being a news cameraman. giving an admittedly interesting perspective for the gameplay to launch. But that's not enough to save it from voice acting so painful it seems like a parody every time you hear it.
Did you see what happened to her?
While the rest of the cast deliver bust-up lines every few seconds, Briscoe definitely turns this game from horror to comedy with his delivery.
So this is what you're gonna do, Chief. Find out what happened to every single news team member that disappeared.
Number 4, Arc Rise Fantasia.
Nobody will be harmed if you cooperate.
No one should use the same tone for every single emotion. The story in this fantasy RPG has enough action and lore to pull fans along through it, although they will probably be skipping through those cutscenes with reckless abandon.
I thought I probably should too.
Characters go from legitimate emotion to bafflingly noisy the next, and they take punches as if they're gargling water.
I'm in pain here.
I'm sorry.
So many lines are delivered completely devoid of enthusiasm that it'll have most players snoring, if not snorting, between exchanges. While the localization can certainly be blamed for the dialogue itself, the bland delivery, no matter the context, is what really destroys this one.
Strange. It's sunny, but it's raining.
The devil must be beating his wife.
Who? Beating his what?
Number 3, Clock Tower.
Jennifer, you're still alive.
Inspector Gotts! Thank heaven, you're all right.
Nothing quite kills a scary atmosphere like some bad voice acting. For this point-and-click game, there's actually quite a decent amount of spookiness to the creepy mansion that you're exploring, making the click-based action actually have a decent amount of tension and fear. If there's nothing else to take you out of the horror from this game, though, the acting does it tenfold, with most characters sounding like they're reading the lines for the first time as they're delivering them.
I'm all right. He's going to kill us anyway.
Professor Barton is a particularly bad offender, sounding like an actual robot when allegedly being fascinated or even in pain, leaving the game all the worse for it.
Helen, the Clock Tower murders are fascinating research material for me. I must know the truth of what happened.
Number 2, House of the Dead 2. Most people don't generally make it to the end of arcade games, which might explain why Sega left this finale in such tattered pieces.
Man committed a sin, disturbing the life cycle of nature. The original sin that man is responsible to.
Fighting through hordes of zombies would seem like enough horror for one game, but just about every line in this game's dialogue is a terror in its own right, sounding frankly kind of inhuman to the point that virtually any player could have acted it better. It's a masterclass in what not to do for voice acting.
What is this place?
While the voiceover is basically a disaster at every step, the ending is such an awe-inspiring train wreck that you can even hear the actors choking mid-word.
In time, a successor will come. Farewell, friends.
Before we get to our top pick, here are some less than honorable mentions.
Shinnok is dead. The good guys won. You're coming back with me.
Never, Sonya. I agreed to help defeat Shinigami.
It's like looking in a mirror.
I see only my cracked reflection.
Then I'll blind you to end your pain.
There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
I suspect, my boy, that we will be attacked by government troops who will want to steal our cargo.
Number 1, Hotel Mario.
Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi? I hope she made lots of spaghetti.
A travesty as bad as the Zelda CDI games was unfortunately not an isolated incident. Dragging another classic Nintendo franchise into the pit, Philips outdid themselves when they decided to take on the Mario series.
You know what they say, all toasters toast toast.
Not even approximating the voices from Nintendo's games. The scratchy, grimy voices they chose turned Mario and Luigi into trashy stereotypes, sounding more creepy than friendly.
Where's the princess? Over there!
Even talking to the player directly while making bad, outdated jokes, they didn't even seem to have any respect for the license they were working with. When you top it all off with Peach's lazy read-throughs, you realize why this is one project that Nintendo is still trying to forget.
And my thanks to you, too.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.